You are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the voice of the Knights.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so honored to be joined by the Career Services Director, Steve Hassinger. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Paul. It's always a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you. We're going to need to dig in and see how many times you've been on the show, because you're starting to rank up there in the top number of guests that we've had in terms of frequency. So we will definitely check that out, and we'll update you the next time we have you on. But, you know, Steve, we like to have you on a couple of times a year to talk about all of the amazing and wonderful things that you are doing alongside Kristen Fike. I don't want to downplay her involvement, but this term is the biggest event of the year for you, the Business Partner of the Year Breakfast. That breakfast is going to take place on Thursday, September 11th, 2025, in the Conference Center at Central Penn College from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. So, Steve, we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking a little bit more about some other things that you have going on in the fall term, specifically a couple of job fair opportunities, as well as a couple of workshops you have planned.
Right, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's get started with the Business Partner of the Year Breakfast. You know, obviously, this is something that you think about all year round. It's not only, as of course I'm sure you'll reference, a beautiful spread of food, but it's also the opportunity for career services to really honor some of the folks, not only from an intern of the year perspective, but also from a business partner of the year perspective. So, Steve, maybe tell me a little bit about how this event came to be, sort of the signature event from Career Services, and then maybe give us a little bit of background on what someone could expect if they come.
Well, unbelievably, this is going to be our 21st
Wow.
annual Business Partner of the Year event. Now, it did not start as a breakfast. It started actually as a luncheon. And it started with, I think we probably had about 35 to 50 people at that first event. We did not have an intern of the year. We did not have internship site coordinators of the year. We did not have a theme. We did not have a keynote speaker. So it has really grown and morphed from those humble beginnings 21 years ago.
As things do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have something, you assess, you add to it, you change, etc. So it's really grown over those years, and it is an event primarily to honor the businesses that we work with. Several years ago, Kristen Fike, as our internship coordinator, said, hey, we should honor some interns of the year. So we added that feature to it. We started having a theme for the event. This year's theme is Be Impactful. So we have a keynote speaker that goes with the theme. Our keynote speaker this year is Kimberly Craig. She is a two-time Central Penn graduate. She has both her bachelor's and her master's in professional studies degrees from Central Penn. And in 2025, she was honored as a healthcare hero. She is the community health director at Hamilton Health Center in the Harrisburg area. So she has certainly been impactful, and that was recognized, right? We also added the town meeting portion of the event.
Your favorite part?
My favorite part. I just love that because we get to learn from each other. And it's great because I'll moderate the town hall meeting. It'll be around the theme of Be Impactful. I will toss out questions. We will literally walk around with a cordless microphone. We'll have faculty and staff. We'll have employers. We'll have students. We'll have community members. We'll have alumni. And anyone can chime in on that topic. And it's a great way for us to learn from each other around that theme.
You know, one of the things, and I know that we had you on previous to talk about this, but one of the things that I bring up a lot in a variety of different meetings and even in professional development sessions with my colleagues was about our Penn ACE presentation in response to AI. Basically, our contention was that professors really, and people all across college campuses, not just professors, but staff, faculty, career services professionals, need to really push experiential learning as sort of a response to artificial intelligence. When you're talking about this idea of being impactful, do you envision that some of those types of conversations are going to come up during the Business Partner of the Year breakfast?
Absolutely, I think so. And I mean, one question that I'm kind of floating around in my head right now is, let's suppose you're a current student, you're about to graduate, right? I'm just starting my career. How can I be impactful at that first job, right? And I'm anxious to hear from the employers and everybody in the field, really, what kind of insight they have on that area. I want to hear from students, what does that mean to them, being impactful? Do they want to work for a company that is impactful? And if so, what does that mean? So absolutely, AI, has touched just about every aspect of our life at this point, or it certainly will in the near future. So, as you incorporate AI into your jobs, into your studies, et cetera, how does that impact your ability to be impactful? And how can you be more impactful if you're using it appropriately?
What I love about the Business Partner of the Year breakfast, and this is actually one of the things that I shared with my students, because I did offer this opportunity for some of my students to come to this as extra credit, especially in my online classes. One of the things I build this as is not only a chance to network with career services, but also a chance to network with other students and business leaders in the community. One of the things that I argue, certainly, we're going to make some of the same comments about online education. Of course, it's convenient. It's often for people who wouldn't have the time or ability to join us on campus. However, and I think this is a pretty big however, the whole networking aspect is one of the reasons, sort of the downsides to people in online education, because you're sort of isolated. You don't really ever have that interaction. And so explain why, say to an online student out there, beyond maybe what I already mentioned, why this particular event would be worth the trip here to Central Penn, even just for a morning.
Absolutely. I don't think that you can overemphasize the importance of that face-to-face communication, being able to put a face with a name. Even if you've connected with somebody on LinkedIn or on other social media previously, and now you have an opportunity to meet them face-to-face at an event like this. We have actually had students who have participated in the town meeting, who offered their insight and so forth in the past, who have then had employers at the end of the event come up to them and say, we'd like to talk to you. We would like to talk about opportunities that we have when you're ready. So it can lead to those types of things. Had something really neat happen in the classroom before I came in here this morning with a program that we're running. And we had a lady come in, came down from up in the Poconos to share a financial literacy piece, but also sharing about her life story and so forth. And she was emphasizing the importance of, have a financial planner, have a mentor, have somebody in your life that you can reach out to and ask questions. And I had a young lady in the class raise her hand, and she said, I'm 19. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, working at the Olive Garden, Why would anybody want to be my financial planner? And the lady said to her, here's my email address, here's my phone number, I will be that person for you.
That's amazing.
So, making those relationships, making those connections in whatever aspect of life can be so valuable.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And that's another thing, is that it's not just about, hey, I'm coming to campus. It's also about meeting you face to face. Because let's just face it, for an online student that might not, maybe ever in some cases, or rarely at best, that might be the one time they see you, put a face to the name, and then know. Because not that you're overly promotional of what you do, but of course, during the course of the day, you talk about the services that you offer, as you should.
Right.
I think that opportunity to meet with people who might not typically be on campus might be helpful too. Of course, everyone is welcome, right? But the most important thing to me is the connections that are made there, specifically with other people and with the career services team.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna remember them, from those conversations and those interactions that you have. Plus, it's tough to get scrambled eggs and bacon and sausage and pancakes and fruit and coffee and all of those other things virtually.
Indeed. Well, of course, Steve, everybody loves food. So talk to us just very briefly about what is on the menu for the day.
Yeah, well, all the things that I just mentioned, pancakes, we've got sausage, we've got bacon, we've got fruit, a selection of fruit, fresh fruit, breakfast potatoes.
They are the best. I
they
look
are, aren't
forward
they?
to the Business Partner of the Year breakfast just for my breakfast potatoes. Well, it's so much more than just a meal. And certainly you can go to givebutter.com/BPOY2025 to sign up for this. What is the promo code for the students, Steve?
For students, all they have to do when they are registering is put in a promo code of student.
Can't forget that one.
Can't forget that.
Well, let's take a look at the agenda. What you typically do is have the first 30 minutes or so for people to eat, which I'm a big fan of. In fact, I'm getting ready to plan our Nightly News Hall of Fame, and that's front and center in my agenda. People love to eat, and then once they're fed, they're in good shape. You do some welcoming remarks and move right into the keynote speaker, which, as we mentioned, is Kimberly Craig. And then the town hall meeting is for about 30 minutes, around 9:35 to 10:05. And then the intern of the year and the recognition of the business partner of the year. Members First. Members First Federal Credit Union is certainly something I'm sure we've all at least heard of. We've driven by one of their branches. But Steve, how did and was the decision made to give them this prestigious honor?
Yeah, when we look each year at the businesses that we work with, we look at involvement not just in one area, but are they involved in multiple areas across the college? And Members First certainly has. They're a corporate partner as well, a partner program member that Curtis Volker works with. So we have done training for Members First. We've had faculty go to their sites, even in Philadelphia, to do training. They have hosted interns from Central Penn in the past. Obviously, we have students who have worked there part-time. We have employees, Members First employees, who come to Central Penn for their bachelor's degree or their associate degree or their certificate or whatever the case may be. They have a person who serves on our advisory council for career services, which meets twice a year. I know you're talking to them about some shadowing opportunities, tour, over at their main office, et cetera. So
Which is beautiful.
It is fabulous. I'm going to tell you, the coffee machine they have over there, if you get over there, make sure that they take you to the coffee machine.
It'll be first on my list. Well, I think that's really interesting about how the Business Partner of the Year breakfast works. The 21st annual Business Partner of the Year breakfast will take place on Thursday, September 11th. The theme for this year's event is Be Impactful, and Central Penn students can go to givebutter.com/BPOY2025 and put in the promo code STUDENT for a free meal. Well, Steve, any final thoughts about the Business Partner of the Year breakfast? Obviously, it's a great opportunity to network with the career services team, but local business leaders, other students, faculty, and staff. I mean, it's really just a win-win-win-win for any Central Penn student or faculty or staff member, I might add.
Yeah, and we typically have this event, the last several years at least, it's been the second Thursday in September. This year happens to be September 11th as well. So one of the other things that we want to do this year is we want to honor and recognize anyone in the audience, students, faculty, staff, et cetera, who are veterans or active duty military as well, because certainly when you think about being impactful, they certainly have been.
100%. Well, Steve, it would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the amazing other things that you do. In fact, a couple of the things you have are things that are coming up later in the fall term. So I want to just first talk about a partnership that we have with Hack. Now, certainly Hack has, we've partnered in various capacities with them, including through our bookstore, etc., over the past couple of years. So can you share with us a little bit more about how this partnership came to be in terms of their job fairs?
Yeah, so as you well know, we were part of a consortium, Central Pennsylvania Employment Consortium, for many years, for all but 1 year that I've been working here, I guess. That consortium, unfortunately, has split up and is no longer functioning, but one of the main things that they did was a big job and internship fair. It used to be in the wintertime, and then we moved it to the fall time, etc. So that consortium is no longer working. We really wanted an opportunity for our students to be able to attend some type of a large job fair. Didn't really feel like we had the population on campus during the day here to have our own event where we would bring in 40 or 45 employers, which is about the most that we can host here in our conference center. So I reached out to my my associate at Hack, who is also part of our advisory council meeting. And I said, hey, what would you think about us partnering together? They already have actually 2 events that they do. And I said, I'm not just asking for a handout. I'm not just asking, hey, can our students come? But can we add value to that event? In other words, can we bring employers that maybe would not come through some of the connections that we have, et cetera? Can we obviously help you the day of, help you with the planning, that type of thing? So we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and they said, sure. Let's do this. Let's give it a try, and let's see how things go. So they have 2 events that they're going to run this fall. On October 7th is a more general fair. That will be both of these will be from 10 to 2. The one on the 7th will be in the Cooper building over there. And then on October 22nd, they have a job fair that is more focused on health sciences. And that will be in the Select Medical building over there, again from 10 to 2. So that event will be those events will be happening within a couple weeks of each other.
Did you know, Steve, I went to Hack for a semester. I taught at Hack.
I knew you taught there.
My wife went to Hack. My daughter went to Hack. We also all then graduated from Shippensburg in various capacities as well. So, but yeah, I've spent plenty of time in Cooper. Not only just as a student, but as a faculty member as well before I came on full-time here. So I think it's wonderful that we are partnering with Hack, and I appreciate that their willingness to do this. We've talked in the past about CPEC and sort of the way things changed. I got to admit, Steve, I love the tailgate and relate the last couple of years, but certainly I understand the vast amount of resources and time that it takes to put on a job fair. And so I think that this just makes more sense, to be honest with you. And frankly, it's only literally right across the bridge. I mean, it's not far at all. You jump on, you cross the bridge, you're at Hack. And now here's the big question, though. Since this is an off-site situation, is there going to be transportation for students?
We will arrange transportation. If students need transportation from campus, we will reserve the campus van. And one of us, Kristen Fike or myself, certainly can provide that transportation. With CPEC, we also made transportation available. We found that most of our students didn't need it. They managed to carpool or had a vehicle, etc. But yes, we will make transportation available if students do need transportation to the event.
Now, the downside is it is week 1,
yes.
Tuesday of week 1. But of course, there's nothing you can do about that. What I would just say is, just from my own perspective, even students that are even just starting here in the fall term might still find some value, but certainly students who have been here longer, I would make it a priority to go to this, because the thing that I realized, Steve, after all of these years of going to CPEC and even when we used to have our summer internship fair here, was that the best thing about a job fair isn't necessarily the people you meet, which obviously is a benefit. I don't want to downplay that.
Sure.
It is that experience. If you've never been to a job fair before, you don't want to go to your first one when you need to find an internship or job. You want to go for your first time just to understand the lay of the land, what it's like. It's always going to be nerve-wracking. I don't care how many job fairs you've been to. Yeah. It's going to be nerve-wracking. But to get that first one sort of out of the way, you feel more comfortable every time you go after that. It's so much easier.
Absolutely. And, if you keep going to these events and you see some of the same employers over and over, they start to get to know you as well. And I've had employers say to students, when are you graduating? Aren't you graduating soon? Are you looking for an internship? Are you looking for a job in the near future? So you start to build those relationships as well.
As we continue through the end of the term, if you have interest in going to either the general Hack Job Fair on October 7th from 10 to 2 or the health sciences focused Hack Job Fair on October 22nd, please reach out to Career Services at centralpenn.edu for more information, especially if you need transportation.
Absolutely.
Steve, last thing I want to talk about here are 2 fall workshops that you are planning. Still in the works, so I don't want to announce anything specific.
Right.
But just for everybody to keep an eye out on 2 different fall workshops, one directed specifically towards athletes, one directed specifically at veterans. But what they're about is maybe not quite what you would think. And correct me if I'm wrong in explaining this, it's how to quantify the leadership that athletes and veterans have gained that may not typically show up on a resume.
Absolutely, yes. And there's a lot of similarities between veterans and athletes. And when that term of duty ends, or you graduate as an athlete, a big part of your life is kind of gone and left behind. So how do I make that transition, from defining myself as a veteran, defining myself as an athlete, and I even had somebody say to me, they both wear uniforms. So I said,
Indeed.
you never really thought about that until that person mentioned that. But how do I translate that military ease into my resume and an interview in a way that a civilian is going to understand, right? And for our athletes, many times I find that they don't sell enough what it takes to be a college athlete. Employers love to hire athletes because of the dedication, the teamwork, all the skills that you accumulate. And sometimes, there's captains, there's co-captains, et cetera. They're assuming leadership roles. So there's a lot of qualities there that employers look for.
One of the things is I work with a lot of students who are athletes.
Right.
And often what I end up seeing on a resume is like Central Penn College activities, basketball team, baseball team. It's like, yeah, I know it's tough to kind of put down as experience, but why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it is experience. Is it specifically tied in? I mean, unless you want to get into sports management or something like that.
Right.
Is it specifically tied in? Well, no. But there are still transferable skills, Steve, and this is the one of the key points that you bring anytime you're talking to my class. There are still transferable skills that were taken away that can be applied from both military and athletes.
Absolutely, and that's what we hope to help with these workshops to bring out more so on the resume, because employers love those soft skills, and you have to develop so many soft skills, as an athlete, as a veteran, as an active duty military person.
And Steve, one of the things, back to the AI discussion that we had earlier, one of the things that I'm seeing in a lot of the professional development I'm doing is, yes, AI is real, it's happening. Almost that soft skills are so much more important now than even a few years back, because some of the day-to-day stuff, it might be able to be automated, but the soft skills really can't ever be automated, especially in a human-to-human interaction.
No, I just had an employer panel with 6 employer representatives yesterday in a classroom, and so many of them were talking about the fact that, yes, if you don't have exactly the skills that I need for this job, I can train you on some of those hard skills, right? But if you can't relate well with people, if you don't communicate well, if you are not a team player, if you're not reliable, if you don't show up for work, I can't change that probably at this point in your life, right? And athletes have to show up. Veterans have to show up, right? They have to have all of those things that employers really want.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing with us all of the wonderful things happening between now and sort of the fall, the end of the fall. So just want to recap a couple things. First of all, if you'd like to sign up for the Business Partner of the Year breakfast, please go to givebutter.com/BPOY 2025. Promo code STUDENT gets you a free ticket to the event. You'll want to sign up at your earliest convenience. Of course, we'll be looking forward to seeing keynote speaker Kimberly Craig. Also, the Hack General Job Fair on October 7th from 10 to 2. The Hack Health Sciences Job Fair October 22nd from 10 to 2. For more information on those, to register or for transportation, reach out to Career Services at centralpenn.edu. And, of course, keep an eye out on Student Central and Central Station for more information about the specialized fall workshops for athletes and veterans. Anything else to add, Steve?
No, just Career Services is here to support you throughout your educational journey as well as when you have graduated. So if you can't remember who we are, where we are, you can always email us at careerservices@centralpenn.edu.
Well said. Well, Steve, as always, it's my pleasure to get to have you on and talk about all the amazing things Career Services is doing. Just to sort of a preview, I'm actually going to, we haven't booked this yet, I can't wait to bring Kristen Fike on because she's going to Disney.
Yes, she is. She's going to Disney in October, as a matter of fact, in between the 2 job fairs,
right.
That week in between there, yes.
So I'm going to have her on and talk about her excursion to Disney, not just for a vacation, for something because of we've sent multiple students down to the Disney internship program.
Right. We have a student now at the Disney College program. So she gets to go down and get a behind-the-scenes look.
Can't beat that.
At Disney. Yeah.
Well, we will look forward to having her on in the fall. Maybe we can talk about some more of these things at that time. But Steve, in the meantime, thank you so much for putting on the Business Partner of the Year breakfast, for finding us some job fairs that our students can partake in, and doing these workshops for these unbelievable athletes and veterans.
And thank you to the Nightly News for your continued support and all that you do to help publicize these events.
It's our pleasure. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. I want to thank the director of the Career Services Department here at Central Penn College, Steve Hassinger. Steve, again, as always, it's wonderful to have you.
Always great to be here.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. For Steve Hassinger, this is Professor Paul Miller, and we'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.
Hey, this is Cy Pinthong. Thank you for listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so honored to be joined by Charyann Hernandez of the Gamma Beta Phi National Honor Society chapter here at Central Penn College. Such a pleasure to have you today.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, welcome. And the one thing that I definitely wanted to talk about with you today is you recently, back in February, went to the Spirit of Service from Vision to Action National Convention for Gamma Beta Phi. So I do want to have the chance to talk with you about that coming up and about your experience on there. But it's again, such a pleasure to have you today. And this is really one of the first times we've had the chance to speak with people from Gamma Beta Phi. So I really want to get to know a little bit more about the organization, some of the things that you do, how people can get involved, and of course we'll talk a little bit more about that convention. So first of all, how did you get involved with Gamma Beta Phi here at Central Penn?
So when I first started in the fall of 2023, I kept seeing the Gamma Beta Phi posters and all of the food drives that they were doing and whatnot. And at first I thought it was going to be a little too much for me because of all, being a freshman and whatnot and trying to figure out everything I was doing. Until I was curious and I asked questions of okay, well, what do I actually have to do? Do I have to attend every meeting? Do I have to live on campus and whatnot? And from that point, I was told that, no, I don't need to live on campus. I don't need to be as, busy with them as I would initially think. Just as long as I participate every now and then. And my main goal is to give back to the community as much as I can. In my second term or so, I decided to officially join once I got invited to it, and it's been the best thing since then.
That's really fantastic. One of the things that I really like to talk with students about is how important it is to get involved on campus and in whatever capacity you feel you can. One of the things that I work in mentoring students is college is your time to build your resume. A lot of students will say, well, how am I supposed to, get a job that needs experience if I'm not ever offered any opportunities? And the number one thing I say is, you have to get involved on campus. Do anything that you possibly can to build that resume. Now, you are here now as president of the Honor Society, which I think is going to look tremendous on your resume, not only because you have to be academically inclined. I believe you have to have a certain GPA level. Is it 3.5?
I think it's a 3.5, yeah.
3.5. So you need a 3.5 to even be a part of it. So right there, you already know you're, academically attuned, but it's also a community service organization too. So tell me a little bit about how Gamma Beta Phi sort of organizes community service around this organization.
So other than our usual meetings that we have with the Gamma Beta Phi members, we usually every year do certain events. Some of them being food drives for the local communities, but also things as donations for clothing, donations for little activities. Sometimes we go out and we just do little activities with the children, for example, at different schools and whatnot. And it's kind of a way to get to know the community a lot more. So that way we know our community that we live in. And it's also a way of just bonding and forming social interactions with people, which looks great on a resume, especially if you can work with a big group of people. That's something that a lot of people always look for.
And I think that's really cool. One of the things that I remember, most recently was the food drive that you did for the college pantry last year. I know that was still probably early on in your tenure here at Central Penn, but even just looking back at that, how do you look at drives like that as a way to increase your community involvement, even though it was just for the Central Penn College students?
So I know we talk a lot about community involvement, but sometimes whenever people look at the community, they forget to look at the people that they are already with and the people that are around them already. So kind of helping to give back to our own students is kind of a way of community within a community in a way. Food is one of the biggest, I guess, communication starters or conversation starters, or it's like you can have a conversation with someone while eating a snack or something. And so from students donating to other students, it kind of forms that initial bond with them of like, you were able to help me out. One day I'll be able to help you out, and, something like that.
Which brings me to just a small shout out for the College Pantry. The College Pantry here serves all students. And one of the things that in talking with some other online students or even like commuters, I think a lot of people don't realize that any student who goes to Central Penn College can utilize those food sources. I was so impressed by the amount of food that you were able to bring in this food drive this year, and even still today, still helping some of the students here on campus to give them those food choices. And it's like you said, one of the things that's disturbing, frankly, is if you look at some of the numbers of food insecurity on college campuses. I think a lot of people believe, that they have a meal plan. Well, that meal plan's only finite, and that's certainly not all of the meals that you have. What difference have you gotten the chance to talk to any students who maybe used this platform? Like, what was their feedback in thanking you for the work that you'd been doing?
I have been able to talk to some of the students that were able to actually get food from the pantry, and I know that a lot of them were commuters, and they thought that they couldn't get from the pantry because they weren't living on campus.
Right.
But sometimes, like I used to be a commuter as well, and I would be here for long hours, and I would sometimes go into the pantry and get something and then leave because I wouldn't want to pay for a meal plan if I wasn't going to be here all the time.
Of course.
And for the on-campus students, a lot of them thought, okay, well, I have the meal plan, so there's no point. But what about on the weekends when the cafeteria is closed? Like, what do you do in that scenario? You can't just rely on the 24/7 little refrigerators and whatnot.
Will's Place, yeah.
Will's Place. A lot of people forget that the pantry even exists, which is kind of disheartening to see. But I do see a lot of the students taking the opportunity to be able to go in there and get what they need.
One thing I will say is I think to a point, maybe when it first started, it hadn't maybe gotten out there and as the exposure. But here's the thing. One of the things that I really appreciate about your food drives is, yes, of course, you're collecting food.
Right.
That's very important. But it's also the exposure that the pantry's getting. When you're walking by those bins and you see that you're doing a food drive for the Central Penn College Pantry, people might have thought to themselves, there's a pantry? So it's not only just the opportunity for you to collect food, it's also an opportunity to get the word out about what you're doing, which I think is really, really awesome. I'm so proud, and again, I know you're not taking credit. We were talking before the show. You were just a member at that point. But now that you're president, what other types of things? I know that the food drive seems to be sort of like an annual thing. What other types of things, drives, and community involvement have you gotten yourself into since you sort of stepped into this leadership role?
So something that isn't really seen as much as like community-wise is also our Spirit Weeks. We're the ones that actually kind of set up the themes and set up the Spirit Weeks. And I feel like that's a very important part of community because everyone gets to dress up in a certain way. For example, sports teams, you get to see what sports someone enjoys or what team they enjoy, and then that could be a conversation starter.
For sure.
And it's the little things like that I've been kind of trying to work on because, yeah, our food drives and our pantries, are amazing and we're always going to do them no matter what. I think it's the little things as well that kind of help our community get involved. And it's also for our online students, they can post photos on the Central Penn app with their spirit wear. So even if they're miles away, they'll still be able to interact with the other students with things like that.
And that's one of the things too that I've had the opportunity to when I speak with online students, because a lot of my advisees are online, and the one common thing that I hear a lot is that they in a sense feel a little disconnected. You don't have that day-to-day interaction with your professors, your classmates, or even your roommates. So doing things like that, I think you'd be really surprised how much value that some of our online students find in that. Now, not everybody's going to participate, and that's fine. We understand people often are working and have families, and maybe that's not the connection that they want. But I do know that there's still a lot of folks out there who really do appreciate that connection. I think that's really cool about students posting to the app as well. So we'll look forward to future Spirit Weeks coming up. Well, I want to take some time and talk about this convention that you went to. This was from February 27th to March 2nd earlier this year. It was called The Spirit of Service, From Vision to Action, the National Convention in Knoxville, Tennessee, hosted by the Tennessee chapters of Gamma Beta Phi. You can always check out gammabetaphi.org/2025-national-convention for some of the more information and some photos. You can even see Sherry on the website, which we just found out. So tell us, how did this all come to be? Like, when did you guys get the idea, like, hey, we really want to do this and represent Central Penn College?
So I know Dr. Stuckey does end up going sometimes just herself to represent the Central Penn Gamma Beta Phi. However, she did get the idea of bringing some students with her because a lot of the other chapters also brought their students. And we were lucky enough to get a grant to send two of us, which was me and Jasmine, which is the vice president, to Knoxville. Now, we could have driven there.
It's a long drive.
It's a very long drive. So we decided to take two flights. We had a layover. And actually, that was Jasmine's first time ever flying.
Oh, wow.
So that was an experience for her. And that
Indeed.
was my first time going without any adult supervision.
Right.
So it was kind of like a first time for both of us. But once we got there, it was kind of like just settling in, trying to figure out what we're doing, especially since, unfortunately, Stuckey was not with us.
Yeah, and as many of the Central Penn community knows, Dr. Stuckey has been out for some time. We'll be back on campus here in the fall, so we'll look forward to seeing her back with us. But what was it like? I mean, I know it was only just a few days, but what were some of the key sort of takeaways? I mean, especially since it's been a little while since you've gone, you've maybe now had time to reflect about the value of it. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you learned or some of the connections that you made.
So since it was just me and Jasmine, we actually were able to group up with some of the other chapters, and we kind of stuck around with them. For example, the Blue Jays, who were also in Tennessee, they were there for the first time, but then a few of them have been there multiple times. So it was kind of like a learning experience for all of us, but they were kind enough to let us kind of join with their group whenever we were doing activities and whatnot. But when we first got there, the hotel had an event already going on, and so we thought we arrived at the wrong hotel because everybody was dressed up in suits and dresses and whatnot, and we just got out at an airport. And once we got there, we were kind of nervous for the check-in because it was under Dr. Stuckey's information. But once we got there, it was a smooth ride. We were able to settle down. And some of the main differences that I've noticed is the people. The people are very different. The roads are very different. And even though you're living in the same country, it's kind of wowing to see the difference. And so, especially since we're not that far away.
Right.
But on the actual first day of the actual events, we got onto the bus and we were kind of to ourselves for a bit. But then once we got with the Blue Jays, it was just an amazing experience. There was horrible heat.
I bet.
But other than that...
In February?
In February in Tennessee.
Wow.
I'm grateful I brought extra clothing. But we were able to kind of explore for the first day. We were able to explore the campus because we were on the University of Tennessee and we were on their agricultural campus. And because that's where the Gamma Beta Phi chapter is mainly at.
Gotcha.
And so the first day, again, was kind of just a scavenger hunt day. We were trying to find where we were going, how the place was. We even took a break and walked all the way to Publix. We had to cross a highway to get there. And I will say, Tennessee people do a lot of walking, a lot of uphill, too. It was definitely a sight to see. But I think the main thing that I've been reflecting on is even though we're all from very different campuses and whatnot, we all kind of have the same goals in mind of helping the community and whatnot. And being able to see everyone at least once a year is kind of like, wow, we've done so much progress And we've all had the same goal, even if we have different resources in different places.
There's one thing that I can kind of at least connect with you on as far as that goes. So I've had the opportunity over the last 5 years to go to the Popular Culture Association National Conference to present some of my research. I didn't know anyone. Now, I will say the first couple of years were online, so that was a little bit easier. You know, you just pop in. When you're actually there in person, it's totally different because, yes, you're still presenting, but you're really getting to network with people who have similar interests as you. So what I've found is I teach communication, so I'm like totally cool with just going up to random people. But what I've found is I've actually developed friendships. This was my 3rd year in a row going. And now each year I am reaching out to these individuals and saying, hey, here's when I'll be in town. Like, can we get together, go out to dinner or whatever? A couple of authors I'd actually admired and looked up to, I've gotten to know and are now on a, I don't want to say friendship, collegial, you know. That's what's so interesting about going to these sort of annual conferences. And I encourage you to find a way to get back this year.
Yeah.
I know that the grant may or may not be there from year to year. However, I most certainly believe you could do fundraising drives and things of that nature to help at least offset some of that. I'm telling you, those relationships that you've created that first time, those people are going to continue to be there. And maybe some people graduate and there's some turnover because you're in college. But I'm telling you, like, the value that you're going to take away from developing this professional network is worth 50 times the money that you're spending. So I wanted to say one other thing. And you'd mentioned earlier about that first little bit of time, right? Feeling a little nervous, trying to feel everybody out. Tell me about the other groups there welcoming you in.
So a lot of the other groups have been there multiple times. So it was just like another day for them. Like, hey, it's like a little family reunion to them. The group that we stuck with, they were actually like grown adults, and they had children and they had families and whatnot. So it was still a little bit awkward because of me being 19 still. It's kind of like a very big gap. But they were still very kind and very welcoming, and they understood that we've never been there before.
They know what you're going through. They want to make you feel welcome.
And they understood that we weren't even from that state. So they were guiding us and they were kind of helping us, but still letting us figure things out. So it was kind of just like a gentle nudge.
I think that's so cool, and I love. See, I'm gonna just give you one last little sort of piece of advice from my own experiences. Everything you felt last time, you will not feel next time. You're going to walk in there, you're going to be ready to go, and you're going to pay it forward. You're going to find and seek out those folks who had never been there before. Be like, hey, I was just where you were last year. Here's how we did it, and now, let's make the most out of this. I'll never forget the first time I went to a national conference in person. Like I'd said, I'd presented twice, but we went to San Antonio, and it was like I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to engage with it. And what I just did was I just found the people who had similar interests as me, introduced myself, let them know, what my background was. And like I said, these people are still friends that I have to this day, even though they live all over the country. I met people from really all over the world. So I think that's really cool. And I hope, and let me know if we can help you in some way, because I would love to see the two of you have that opportunity to go back, and hopefully Professor Stuckey will be able to join you this time around.
Hopefully she'll be there with us, absolutely.
But I think that's so cool. Now, if you had to look back at some of the sessions that you went to, obviously you'd said the first day was sort of a scavenger hunt. Talk a little bit about some of the sort of professional development sessions that you attended.
So a lot of the sessions that we attended, the first one was kind of just a talk about the community and whatnot, of like why we joined and whatnot. And the very first thing that the presenter had us do was shut off our phones. And she's like, all right, I'm going to challenge you, shut off your phone for an hour, and we'll see how you do. And me and Jasmine completely forgot we had our phones turned off, like after that. It took us at least 30 minutes to realize. But a lot of people did mention that they struggled because they would pull out their phones out of habit, or they would try to check on their kids, for example, which is a lot more reasonable.
Certainly.
But then we had an entire conversations. We kept talking and whatnot, and none of us really looked at our phones. And the presenter was talking about how community isn't just on the phone. It's on, in-person interactions, but also just being aware of those around you. And then we did kind of like a telephone game and whatnot. And then after that, you could pick kind of where to go.
Okay.
There was a resume building one. So for those who didn't have their resumes yet or didn't know how to, they were kind of guided on how to build your resume, what to put on there, and what to not put on there. Which for me at the time, I already had my resume done, but it was still, I was able to tweak some things in it which made it 10 times better. After that, the rest were kind of just general life advice. So, when it comes to finances, when it comes to, again, resume building, things like that. It was kind of just pick what you needed to hear, which I really appreciated because I'm not the type to always just go to the same ones over and over. I kind of went to what I needed, and they were able to help me with that. They had people that worked in those fields, and which genuinely is, for example, in Central Penn, a lot of the professors worked in the fields that they teach, which is one of the greatest things that I've ever seen before. And I think it gives you the best genuine advice, not just advice from a textbook, but the best genuine advice.
For sure. Well, I am just so glad that we've had this opportunity to talk a little bit more about Gamma Beta Phi and the Spirit of Service Convention. Before we move to the sort of final segment here, I really want to, let's team up later this year because I would love to help you do some fundraising and try to get you back to Knoxville, because I can just tell just in speaking with you how much value you took away from just your first time. Yeah. And I would argue if you go back again, you'll find that same amount of value,
Absolutely.
if not well more. Well, the last thing that I did want to talk about is you being an online student and myself being a club advisor for the Nightly News. One of the things that we continue to, in a sense, struggle with is online students being involved. And of course, we understand why that is. Often they're later in life, they're already working a full-time job, they have other obligations that they just maybe don't feel that being involved in a club is something that they have the time or wherewithal to do. But most importantly, I want to point out, any Central Penn student is welcome in any club or organization that we have. You can be a commuter. You don't have to be just an on-ground student. You can be online. Now, for the Nightly News, we do have in-person meetings. But in the past, we've made Teams links that they could join us, or we've worked individually with students to help them write articles or have them in for podcasts, things like that, much like we're doing right now.
Right.
I wonder if you have any suggestions for online students, being that you're an online student in your own right, for how they might get involved on campus and what value you might see there.
So, I know that when it comes to me, at least, I know my days that I'm usually free, but sometimes my schedule is, I don't know till the week before.
Right.
So sometimes I could be free 2 days, sometimes I could be free 3 days. It's all up in the air. However, something that I usually do is I schedule things. I look at online, I look at the links that are sent to me and whatnot, and then I kind of plan. I make my own little planner. I have 2 separate ones. I have one for just schoolwork, and then I have one for everything else. And I kind of try to make it not overlap, but I kind of just look at when I'm available, and I prioritize things. And I know a lot of online students, again, like you mentioned, have full-time jobs and have other responsibilities. However, it's simple things that can take less than 5 minutes. It's like writing a discussion post, for example, on how your day went, or your opinion on the Spirit Week, for example. It's the little things. And when it comes to clubs, it's more or less just, if you're interested, you can do it. It doesn't matter whether you're online or not. You just have to be able to adjust to it.
And the thing is, like I said, I think every single club on campus would welcome an online student. If you just reach out to the club advisor, or even just to, other student services members, we can get you in touch with the people who you need to be in touch with. And I promise you, we will do anything that we can to get people involved. And here's the thing that I always say when I'm at the club fair: such a small commitment. We're not talking about hours and hours a week. Like you said, in many cases, you can be involved in clubs by just a very small commitment level each and every week. I mean, heck, even if you're an online student in Gamma Beta Phi, for example, maybe you're not able to attend when the meeting happens, but you can still communicate with you, for instance.
Right.
You could, when you guys were doing the donation drive, you could do your own donation drive with your own friends and family, collect the goods, and then make arrangements for those goods to be picked up. I mean, I think a lot of times students think that clubs are just one thing, when really it's all about the desire to be a part of something bigger, especially with Gamma Beta Phi, which is a National Honor Society.
When it comes to Gamma Beta Phi as well, a lot of students believe that you have to do things on campus, but in reality, all you have to do is log what you do. If you do anything for the community, just log it and you'll be good. I know some students that aren't on campus at all, but they volunteer at their local pet shelters. That counts. That counts towards community. You don't have to be on campus. You don't have to do any of that. It's things that you do in your own free time that as long as you log it down, it'll count towards the community points. And as long as you're semi-active, like within a certain amount in a month, you'll be perfectly fine. It's on your own time, too.
And most importantly, back to what you were saying earlier, that's something you can put on your resume moving forward. And I'll tell you, that's one of the first things. I've worked on some search committees for positions here and off campus as well. Number one thing I look for is what are they doing in the community? Their experience is often great, but often that experience is maybe similar to a lot of other folks. To me, it's that volunteerism that sets people apart and really rises them to the top. And this is exactly what Gamma Beta Phi is all about. Well, Cherry, I really want to thank you so much, not only just for taking time out of your day, but for sharing with us this really important event. And we're going to figure out a way to get you there next year.
I can't wait to go. Even if I don't get a grant, I will find a way to go.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna see what we can do, and maybe even help you with a fundraiser to help get you there. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. Any final thoughts in terms of how can, say, an online students out there listening right now, how can they get involved with Gamma Beta Phi?
All I gotta really say is look on the Central Penn website and go into the Gamma Beta Phi, and all the information you need is gonna be right there. And if anything, you could always reach out to me, and I will be available and I'll respond as soon as I can. And I will always work with the students to make sure that they feel like they're involved.
That's amazing. And of course, we'll also put Dr. Stuckey's email along with this as well. And if you've got any questions, you can also ask her. Well, thank you so much again for your time today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I just really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you about this.
It was a pleasure being here.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. For Professor Paul Miller, we'll see you again next time.